Hello guys, today I'm going to talk about the Mage talent trees in Dragonflight and how they can be improved. First we have Prismatic, Blazing, and Ice Barrier. These should just be baseline depending on your spec. Right now they are put in the tree, just as an excuse to have a 10th talent row. Ice Block is fine. Cone of Cold should be our baseline slow, instead of Frostbolt. And Frostbolt should be replaced by Arcane Blast and Fireball at level 10 when choosing your spec. Then we have Shatter, which I'm very happy to see come back for all specs. Sadly they nerfed it for Fire and Arcane, which shouldn't be the case. Invisibility, a really good spell, but it's situational and with a long cooldown, so it shouldn't be an early mandatory pick to progress down the tree. Then we have Rigid Ice, pretty useful for leveling, but that's pretty much it. Underwhelming, requires 2 points, and has a feels bad spot in the tree. Talents like these should be cheap, and positioned in the middle section of the tree, where you have the most points to spend. While the top part should be mostly mandatory core spells, that completes the core of the class. That's just what makes sense, with the type of talent layout Blizzard is using. The same logic should apply to Winter's Protection. It has no place in the top section of the tree, and it shouldn't be mandatory. Remove Curse, a great situational utility spell, but yet again badly positioned. This would be a great spot for Alter Time instead. Grounding Surge is currently mandatory for picking up Alter Time, this is bad. It should be an optional filler talent in the middle segment instead. Same thing for Incantation of Swiftness, it should be unnerfed for greater invisibility and only cost 1 point. Mirror Image is fine, but it should be in a more optional position in the tree. Then we have Slow, which shouldn't be in the general tree to begin with. Put it back as Arcane only. Spellsteal is fine. Alter Time too. I don't like reduplication and reabsorption. Mage should be a glass cannon trying to avoid damage, instead of being rewarded for getting hit. I never liked Block Heal either. Evocation Glyph Heal was way more interesting and interactive. Incanter's Flow and Rune of Power should just be deleted. Having higher base damage on our spells and crits being our main damage multiplier was way more healthy and fun design. Tempest Barrier is okay, but it should cost only 1 point for like 5% shield, and also serve as dispel protection in PvP. Mass Polymorph is overhyped, it's just a terrible and less flexible version of Ring of Frost, that nobody wants. Delete it. Glad to see Blast Wave though, just make it so it either does some decent damage or increase the knockback. Tome of Ronin is okay, most people would find it boring, but I personally enjoy having more secondary stats. Crit and haste are quite fun. Improved Frost Nova shouldn't be a thing, it only exists to be a lazy filler talent. Delete Arcane Warding too, enough with the Mage tank design. Tome of Antonatas is fine, more haste is fun. I like Ice Nova in the class tree, allows for some cool combos with Shatter, for example, Arcanosphere into Ice Nova. Accumulative Shielding is bad, 25-second cooldown on barriers, already feels perfect, stop making us tanks. Shimmer and Ice Flows is a great choice node, but I wish Shimmer was buffed back in 20-second cooldown, and Ice Flows at 15 seconds. Temporal Velocity is our first interesting new talent, only issues is 10% movement speed after blink feels negligible, make it 20. I don't think Master of Time should be for all specs, put it back Arcane only, in a choice node with displacement. Frigid Winds is okay, just make it more optional and cost less points. Flow of Time is really bad, 1.5 seconds off blink is a meme. Make it reduce the global cooldown or regular blink, reduce the cooldown of Shimmer, and give movement speed during Ice Flows. Diverted Energy, equals, delete. Again, stop with the tank mage design. Ring of Frost is good, but Ice Ward should be changed to just reduce the cooldown of Frost Nova. Greater Invisibility should be Arcane only, just like Fire has Cauterize, and Frost has Cold Snap. Same goes for Dragon's Breath, it should be Fire only. Also the cooldown nerf is a bit too much, put it at 24 seconds, so every second Dragon's Breath lines up with Ring of Frost. Shifting Power is not only bad without its conduit, but also makes no sense theme-wise, just delete it. If you want to put cooldown reduction spell, add Evocation to the general tree and make it reduce cooldowns like Combustion and Icy Veins, and make the mono region for Arcane only. Then we have Time Anomaly, reworked and a lot more interesting, although, still random. And lastly, Meteor, I wasn't sure if I like it at first, but if it's properly tuned, it can be quite fun. And I almost forgot, 3 of the new Datamine talents also sound pretty cool, Energized Barriers, Freezing Cold and Hyper Impact. Now that we've gone through everything, there are a couple of obvious issues. First, there are only 3 fire spells in the entire tree. Second, there are too few talent options, especially in the bottom rows. Third, there are too many defensive options, and too little crowd control and offensive ones. Fourth, some key spells like Alter Time are locked behind underwhelming filler talents, or situational utility, and lastly, too many talents that cost 2 or 3 points. So what can we add to the general tree that would make sense and improve it? Let's look at some old talents, starting from Wrath of the Lich King. Here are some good talents from the Arcane tree that we can use. First, a nice combo, the old school Clearcasting and Arcane Potency, giving you extra crit chance when Clearcasting procs. Then, improved Counter Spell, giving you a 4-second Blanket Silence. Torment the Weak, giving you extra damage against slowed or rooted targets. Presence of Mind, allowing you to instantly cast your next damaging spell. A reworked Evocation, that speeds up cooldown recovery for Fire and Frost, and regenerates mana for Arcane would be a good talent option too. We can also add, improved Evocation, restoring portion of your health during the channel. Then, Arcane Flows, reducing the cooldown of Evocation, Presence of Mind and Invisibility. Spell Power, increasing the critical strike damage of your spells. Now, let's check some Frost talent ideas for the Mage tree. First we have, Ice Flows, reducing the cooldown of Frost Nova, Cone of Cold and Ice Block. Then, we have a Frost alternative to Spell Power, or Ice Shards, which would even further increase your critical damage but only against frozen targets. Also, Arctic Reach, another good filler talent, which would increase the radius of your area of effect spells, like Cone of Cold, Frost Nova, Arcane Explosion, and so on. To further push the Shatter play style, a choice node between Frostfire Bolt and Flurry, and then another talent for Brain Freeze can be really fun too. Obviously, Brain Freeze would proc from Fireball and Arcane Blast for the other two specs. And of course, we have to have Deep Freeze as a capstone option for the Shatter play style of the tree. And lastly, let's try picking up some fitting fire spells for our mage tree. A cool addition would be a reworked Burning Determination, allowing you to cast your next casted spell faster, and with a short interrupt immunity, but only after counterspelling a cast yourself, or juking a kick. Another decent filler talent would be Flame Throwing, increasing the range of your single target spells by few yards. Impact Stun could also be an option in the lower parts of the tree, giving your damaging spells a chance to empower your next Fire Blast, stunning your target for 2 seconds, respectfully, with a cooldown. An updated version of Burning Soul would be a good talent too, removing pushback effect on your casts, while you have your barrier shields active. An updated Fiery Payback could be a flavorful passive too, either giving you haste or reducing the cast time of your next few spells after dropping below 35% health, again, with a cooldown. An updated version of the Wrath talent, Fire Starter, would be cool too, causing Blast Wave to empower your next Flame Strike for Fire, Blizzard for Frost, or Arcane Orb for Arcane. Another great filler passive would be Critical Mass, giving you a flat critical chance increase and bonus scaling on your critical rating. An active fire talent that could work in the general tree would be Ring of Fire, and of course it would have capped damage against non-players, similar to how Greater Pyroblast functions in the outdoor world. Another cool choice node would be between the Mists of Pandaria versions of Living Bomb and Frost Bomb. A potential capstone talent could be Radiant Spark, although it has quite the mixed reputation among mage players. Disciplinary Command and Expanded Potential are also fitting candidates for the elemental hybrid style of our mage tree. Now you might be thinking, bro, you just mentioned like 30 new talents. And you would be right, but if we remove all the garbage from our current tree, plus move few talents to be spec-specific, and we're left with over 20 less talents than initially. So even if you add all 30 I suggested, we'll still have less talent options than shamans and priests. And of course, you wouldn't be able to pick everything you want in the tree if we had so much extra meaningful talents. Powerful control options like Deep Freeze, Improved Counter Spell, and Impact Stun would have to compete with each other at the bottom of the tree. Same goes for strong damage increase cooldowns, like Radiant Spark, Disciplinary Command, Spell Power, and Ice Shards. Now, to help you illustrate how an updated version of the mage tree could look like with those talent suggestions, I'm going to show you my own version of the mage tree. Yes, I know what you're thinking. I basically copy-pasted the layout of the initial rogue class tree, and then slapped some mage talents on top. But keep in mind, all this was constructed just over a day, by a single person with no game design work experience, and I would argue it's already way better than what we have, although it's unfinished and it can have a lot better talent placements. My tree is generally split into 3 different play styles, one for each spell school. The arcane part has more raw setup-based damage, Frost has the most control and setup potential, but the least raw damage, and Fire has the most consistent damage, with utility to help you cast more and you also have higher base critical chance. Also each spell school ends up with a 30-second cooldown capstone, and an extra crowd control talent, incentivizing the old school setup play style of Mage. If you're wondering why my tree doesn't include a bunch of the talents I liked from the original, it's because I made it before the Mage trees were released. I would change a lot, but honestly, it's not worth my time until we see any activity from the developers who design Mages. Thank you to those who sat through the entirety of my TTS TED Talk about Mages, and peace.